Today's date, the 19th May 2021. I'm here in Tanner, Alabama with the one and only Kyle Bridgeforth of Kunta Kinte's Village, Gambia. Kyle, you're smiling.
That's my second home.
Tell me about that.
It was absolutely excellent experience. That was the first day where we had just got back from 56 hours of travel. Made it into Senegal before a long route to Banjul, Gambia. We get in, touch base with Gabe. We all get together, have us a quick meal beforehand, get on a maybe 8 by 4 foot boat on some rocky water along, I guess that's the Gambian River.
Gambian River.
Right.
And that thing is as wide as the sea. You can't see shore.
Can't see shore. It felt like you were in an ocean.
Yeah.
But very choppy water. It was an intimate experience, and I feel like I have a lifelong memory of everybody that's on that boat. Thank God.
And how big was the boat, Kyle?
I'm going to give that boat about, it was for all, what was it, 7 of us on there?
Yeah.
It was about the size.
Yeah.
It was maybe a little smaller than a dinner table for 8.
Yes.
It was knees were knocking.
Yes.
But when we finally got to shore, Rafa Island, I believe
Yes.
that's correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
Had an excellent meal. All the people, all the islanders were happy to greet us.
Yes. Yes.
Had a phenomenal experience learning more about all our history.
Yes. Yes.
While being there. So that was a start. That was day 1
Yes.
of a 10-day trip.
Yes, indeed.
That was by far one of the most eventful trips of my life.
Yes, and we were there with El Haj Salim Diaby, and we went to the presidential palace, met the vice president, and we went to a couple of hotels. I remember we went to Kanalai, and we went to the butcher shop where we had some good fish. And
delicious fish.
Yes,
Had the fish I remember the most, the choff.
Yes.
There is my favorite fish, but the dish I remember the most at the butcher shop was they had this whole redfish.
Yes.
Enough for 3.
Yes.
Carlton and I finished it and still got dessert. But it was a full fish. They caught it a couple hours before they prepared it for us.
Yes.
Freshest fish I've had.
Yes.
And I want to go back just to get that dish again.
Yes, indeed. Well, we want to also go back to see if they can get with the program, because we went in 2014 as an initiative of the National Black Growers Council to basically get a model farm in Gambia. A model farm that would allow the Gambians to operate at the level of Bridgeforth farms and the Haney farms and other farms run by members of the National Black Growers Council, which is about 15 years old and is the largest group of African American rural crop farmers. That is, farmers who grow corn, soy, wheat, canola, cotton. And Kyle Bridgeforth is the son, along with his brother Carlton, of a 5th generation African American farmer whose farm goes back to right after the U.S. Civil War, and that is Billy Bridgeforth. Father's Billy Bridgeforth. And Kyle, tell me where you were born, and don't tell me when you were born. I know it was yesterday.
Well, I was born, honestly, essentially right here, the house we're in now. The hospital is about 5 or 10 minutes up the road in Decatur, but this is the house I grew up in. This is where my first memories are. That was 1988,
Yes.
so a couple months I'll be 33.
Yes, indeed.
But it's interesting that 33 years later, we're doing this interview right here.
Yes, indeed.
This is the same house that every partner in the farm lived in at one point. My granddad built it. He spent his whole, essentially the majority of his life here after he built it. After that, all of his kids lived in it at some point. Lamont, my cousin, that's also a partner in the farm. He lived here during his children's early years. He raised them here.
And your great-great-grandfather, who was a, let's say, employee of a Confederate Army officer. What was his name?
That was George Bridgeforth. He's where the history truly starts, or is at least as far as we can trace it back.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about that history.
That history started. I always recount it post-slavery.
Yeah.
That's where we really came into our own as a family and as a farming operation. Post-slavery, we had some acreage that we started in southern Tennessee. Eventually, we for the last 4 generations we've been in North Alabama. George Bridgeforth was the originator of it all. He had aspirations of having his own business and his own farm well before the Emancipation Proclamation. And that same ingenuity and entrepreneurship is something we try to pass down every generation.
So this farm is more than 150 years old, and one of your grandfathers was a professor at Tuskegee Institute with George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington.
That's right. He was there. It was kind of almost like a 3-headed dragon for the agricultural department at Tuskegee.
Yeah. What was his name?
That was George Ruffin Bridgeforth. So he was a part of the second generation. With when Booker T. Washington was the president of Tuskegee, George Washington Carver was historically one of the most ingenious scientists in all of agriculture at the time at Tuskegee. George Ruffin Bridgeforth worked as the equivalent of a dean of agriculture at Tuskegee at the time. So the three of them worked closely. They had a lot of great history together. And for the majority of George Ruffin's career, he was at Tuskegee before spending some time in being president of a small college in Kansas before coming back.
That's right.
Back home to Alabama.
And your father is Billy Bridgeforth, and your mother's name?
Yep, and my mom is Pamela Webb.
Yes.
So she, my maternal side of the family is also from this area.
Yes.
So I see family essentially everywhere I go.
Yes, sir.
All the time, no matter what.
And where did you attend school?
I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. My brother Carlton and I both went there.
Yes, and you worked with the U.S. Trade Representative's Office.
Sure did. That was my first full-time job out of college. Lived in D.C. It was my first time moving out of the South, and absolutely loved it.
Yes.
That's where Carlton, my older brother, is now.
Yes.
But I worked with the agricultural trade team when I was there.
Outstanding. And now, of course, since our famous trip to Gambia, you, Carlton, and myself, you're now married, and
that's right. After that wild, long, and eventful trip, I came home blessed, having learned so much, seen a new part of the world, hunkered down on my career, my life, got married, have a 2.5-year-old son.
What's his name?
That's Benjamin.
Yes, indeed.
Benjamin is a smart, athletic kid that really keeps me. I feel like he keeps me young, but he keeps me tired also.
I know. So listen, we are in a very dynamic time. Food security is an issue still. Diversity is a big thing. The current administration, President Biden, they're making moves to look out for the interests of black farmers, many of whom were not necessarily fairly treated by USDA, and a lot of black farmers lost their land. I think the statistics are in 1900, there were about 4 million black farmers with about 5 million acres of land. Now there are about 15,000 black farmers in the country with less than 1 million acres of land. How do you see it for black farmers, and how can we make contributions not only in the United States but globally?
Well, I think a large part of it is how do we, if we don't increase the number of black farmers, at least sustain and keep the legacy in farming that we have today. There's, as you mentioned, it hasn't always been a fair market or a fair industry, and support of diversity within agriculture is essential if we want to keep diversity within the industry at all. The world is, as we all know, a lot of the arable land that needs to be developed for agriculture is based in the continent of Africa, and descendants of the African diaspora will need to be connected to fully realize that agricultural production. And a lot of that is here, and what I consider the strongest agricultural system in the world is based here in America.
Yes.
So we're primed to go and support, teach what we know, give back to, I mean, if you go back far enough, we're all from the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
But us with direct descendants there will communicate best with the shareholders and landowners of that land.
Yes.
So we'll play a huge role in the world realizing agricultural production.
Yes, and I want to say, you know, a trip to, you know, the folks in Gambia really, you know, welcomed us, and you know, we were treated royally, I must say, and that really bodes well. If you were talking to a young person now who's considering agriculture as a career, what were the value systems you think that made for the success of Bridgeforth Farms?
Well, one key is, well, the biggest hurdle that a young person, a first generation farmer, will face is certainly capitalization. It's a capitally intensive industry. It's competitive. Margins are slim by most industry standards. So it will take some government support to get a young person started in a new enterprise and business. That's the part of farming that is not necessarily considered as much as that it's a large enterprise of a business. It requires a lot of capital. There's a lot of moving parts. You have volatile, wild markets that have to be managed. And young people, especially young minorities, need some support to enter into the industry. The average age of a farmer is above 60 years old now. And there needs to be space for young people to re-enter into farming and agricultural production. The education of farming is one of really risk management. It's becoming, when farming was an art a generation ago, it's becoming more of a science now. We have hundreds of metrics per acre, no matter what microclimate you're a part of, to help you make those decisions. But no matter what, you're dealing with several variables, several risks, and if you have the stomach for it and you enjoy the farming lifestyle, then you can certainly be successful, especially with support.
I think that's very insightful. Kyle, I'm going to talk about the technology part in a minute, but on the human sort of characteristic side of it, what value would things such as heritage, thrift, honesty in interpersonal relationships, and just the work ethic, what value were those factors in the Bridgeforth family success story?
It's absolutely essential. Farming is as much as any a faith-based industry. There are a lot of variables outside your control and outside the control of any system, whether it's the volatility in markets, the unpredictable weather, anything that can happen in farming. It requires honesty not just with your customers but with yourself. It requires support of the community and family around you. These are all things that we've developed over generations and been very fortunate to do so. But it's something we lean on every day. If you're not grounded in something more than profitability in farming, then chances are you'll find something better to do with the money that you receive when you have a good year, or it'll be difficult to sustain it through the bad years.
Absolutely. And so, Kyle, let's talk about technology. We hear now about artificial intelligence, vertical farming. Mm-hmm. Your father, Billy Bridgeforth, is talking to IT firm out on the West Coast that is looking to work with HBCU, and he's looking at Alabama A&M on an artificial intelligence design greenhouse.
Sure. For
what you call, they call it Controlled Environment Agriculture, CEA. Cool. Tell us about that and what it offers to young people, especially those who are in urban centers where they may not have access to land, but they may be able to go up and they may be able to do greenhouse technology.
Well, the technological aspects of agriculture are growing exponentially. We're seeing a lot of influence from Silicon Valley, Wall Street, Austin, Texas. All the tech capitals have a lot of startups and are introducing new technologies from other industries. They're finally coming into the agricultural market space. The indoor control climate farming is perfect for specialty crops. So something like a soybean or cotton that may require a lot of acreage The technology may not be there for that yet, but your high value crops like tomatoes, avocados, in the West Coast, like your citrus goods, these hydroponic indoor controlled environments are great for production. You're seeing production levels well above what you would see in an outdoor variable setting.
Okay.
And it's made in a space where it can be vertical in the building and it's accessible enough in an urban environment for people to be engaged.
That's right. So it's something that we should have young people, especially those who live in urban centers, African Americans, to consider not to give up on agriculture.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Now, Kyle, this is a big one. I've handed you something that's spectacular. Tell us the story of this T-shirt.
Oh, well, this is I would put this into the category of new business venture for us.
Yes.
We've always strived to be more than a raw materials provider.
Yes.
We want to get as deep into the supply chain as possible. We want to have as much impact, not only for the raw material that we provide, but also for the narrative that comes along with it. And this is the first iteration of that. It's a simple white T-shirt that I have in my hands here, but this is material from us, which we track through the supply chain with our partners.
So basically, let's be straight up. This is cotton grown by Bridgeforth Farms in Alabama and Arkansas that has been put through the value-added chain and has now been made into a premium cotton T-shirt you can wear with your jeans.
Absolutely.
So this is maybe the first T-shirt product where from soup to nuts, that is, from the cotton in the field to the final product, the Bridgeforth family had a hand in it.
That's right. We phrase it as dirt to shirt.
Dirt to shirt.
So we can track everything from the time this product was a seed that was planted into the ground, every pass, the timing, plant date, harvest date, ginning, drying, curing, everything that's been done throughout the entire growth of every fiber in the shirt. We can track it back to a certain acre, certain field, all the way to having something in your hand that you hold. And that traceability gives a lot of value to the buyer and all the way through the supply chain.
Well, Kyle, since we went to Africa together back in 2014 yourself, Carlton Bridgeforth, your brother, at that time I was already a member of the Tuskegee Airmen Association. I've since become president in the immediate office in 2020, but I'm still on the board. The proposal that I hear, I'm going to ask you whether you agree with it, is that we have a Bridgeforth Farms Tuskegee Airmen T-shirt.
Sounds like a great idea. It's close to home.
Tuskegee is in a state called Alabama.
That's right. Tuskegee is only a couple hours south of us. We could have that meeting together very quickly. So I think it's a great idea. And we could, with us having so much traceability and control over the entire production process, we could have exactly what we want and ensure that we can tell the narrative and story of how it's made.
Hold that T-shirt there, Kyle, because this is I'm very proud, because
this is a sample product. So this is right now there are tens of thousands of specs and varieties you can make to make different forms of fabrics and materials and several different processes. This is just a sample of one. It'll take hundreds of these samples to find out exactly what it is we want or what it exactly is that the final buyer wants. But this is a great example of a fully tracked and traced product that we can ensure where it was grown, where it was made, how it was produced, who made it. Any of the details that you want can be told through this garment.
And it's also a very good education tool. It's also a very inspirational story, and it's also an affirmation of what it is African American farmers can do, like the Bridgeforth family farmers have shown when they kind of get things in the right groove and to have a product in your hand of the kind that you just told us about is just really commendable. And I want to commend you, Kyle, and your father, Billy, and all the Bridgeforth family for keeping the story of success in agriculture in our community alive. it brings me great pride to be here in Tanner, Alabama, and to visit the farm and to speak with you after how many years now? Almost 6 years.
Yeah, six years. Gabe, I appreciate that.
Yes.
It's been we've had a lot of support from a lot of different, all the way from DC to Alabama. We've had support from all over. We've had a lot of input and suggestion, and it's certainly been a group effort.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the support. Appreciate you coming down.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to this just being one, this blank white T-shirt being exactly what you want it to be one day when you make a T-shirt request.
Yes, sir, indeed. And any final words on the Bridgeforth Family Farm story and the National Black Growers Council, which of course is the umbrella organization to which your farm is a member organization?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll just state the obvious of the fact that where we are now, we're the 5th generation. So we may be the partners and owners of the farm as it is today, but nobody is still alive that founded it. So we're working off the hard work and the vision of several generations before us, which is a common story for member organizations within the National Black Growers Council.
Yes.
The majority of us are multi-generational businesses.
Yes.
And there's a lot of heritage, a lot of narrative, a lot of story. And I just really appreciate the National Black Growers Council being a great conduit for telling those stories.
Yes, sir. And a great conduit also for partnership and projects and mentorship and networking. And I went to Farm Day in 2018 with our brother PJ Haney, who introduced me to your dad and to you and you in Carlton. And PJ is now the president. At that time, he was the treasurer. And at Farm Day, we met, I think, Jessica Braw. She's now the USDA deputy.
Yep, that's right.
From Virginia. So, the National Black Growers Council has made great strides, and your work is but part of that story. And we want to thank the council, thank Bridgeforth Farms, which is a solid member of the council. And in the spirit of Dr. Carver and Booker T. Washington and all the other folks who helped teach us the rudiments of farming and being successful, we give praise to the Almighty Father. And God bless you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Good to see you, sir.
Absolutely. Good to see you too.
All right.